Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be giving my match predictions for the quarter-finals of the FA Cup. It's the promoting round before we see 4 of these 8 teams play each other in the semi-finals at Wembley. So this is a massive game for all 8 sides, and let's see who's going to be able to advance to the semi-finals of the FA Cup. People have said it's lost its shine, but I'm telling you, we have seen some major upsets. We have seen some teams take it serious, like Grimsby beating Southampton in the last round. We know Blackburn and Sheffield United on the quarterfinals as well. What an accomplishment for them. And we also know that the traditional sides have been playing their strong sides, like Manchester United and Manchester City have taken this competition seriously, beating their rivals, obviously West Ham and also Bristol. And going into this weekend of FA Cup fixtures, I don't think it's going to disappoint. We got all Premier League clash between Manchester United and Fulham. Can Fulham literally march their way into Wembley in this game, since Manchester United got so many injuries going into this fixture? We got Manchester City versus Burnley. What a nice return for Vincent Kompany, his first time appearing back into Etihad ever since he made a name for himself as a legend at Manchester City. We also got other amazing games like Grimsby travelling to Brighton. Can they pull off another upset when it comes to the FA Cup? We know the FA Cup is filled with miracles. Can they beat Brighton like they did to Southampton a few weeks ago? We'll have to wait and see. However, before going on this video and give my match predictions, you know I'm going to say, make sure you guys like, comment and hit that big subscribe button right there, because only 10% of you guys are actually subscribed. And make sure you leave your predictions. What's going to be happening in the quarter-finals of the FA Cup? I want to know. So the first game I'm going to be predicting is Manchester United versus Fulham, and it has to be this. This is the best game of the weekend in terms of the FA Cup, a all Premier League clash. And going into this game, you'd usually think, rightfully so, Manchester United have to be the favourites, right? We know they got the better manager, the better squad, the better players, and obviously they are quick off winning that Carabao Cup a few weeks ago, so they should have the momentum and the spirit entering this game hungry for more silverware, especially playing at home when we know they've only lost there once at the beginning of the season. So Manchester United should be in high spirits, especially going against a Fulham side who we know haven't been able to replicate form like early on in the season, being in iffy form at best so far. However, going into this game, Fulham should like their chances. This is because we know Manchester United are filled with major injuries. Players like Sabitzer, players like Eriksen, players like Garnacho, even Casemiro is suspended for 4 games. This just shows, except for Garnacho obviously, that Manchester United's midfield is not going to be looking good. They're going to have to revert back to the traditional 2 pairing of Fred and McTominay. And we know in the past, Manchester United fans hated that. It lacked inspiration. They didn't have the bravery to literally break through the lines when it comes to being on the ball and being technical. They're going to be left with a flat, stale midfield, which are going to be passing that ball sideways, being slow and lethargic. So this is going to be a massive boost for Fulham, knowing that Manchester United potentially will not be able to control the game from minute 1 to 90 like they have had in the past with players like Casemiro and Eriksen, especially with Fulham having a key player returning back with Paulinho back from suspension. We know he has physicality and bite in the midfield, and he sets Fulham's tone when it comes to tackling and being aggressive. So the fact he's going to be back is going to be a massive plus for Fulham as well, and potentially they could be winning that midfield battle, which is going to be so decisive for whoever's going to be advancing to the semi-finals of the FA Cup. We know playing out from the back, being brave, being comfortable on the ball is part of Ten Hag's system when it comes to football, and the fact we know McTominay and Fred do like to lose the ball in bad areas, this will give Fulham so much hope that potentially they could snatch or nick a goal when it comes to Manchester United building out from the back. And Fulham should like their prospects, especially since Manchester United, ever since the Carabao Cup final, haven't been in tip-top form. We have seen it in the defeat against Liverpool, losing 7-0. We also saw it in the game literally on the weekend against Southampton, drawing 0-0 to bottom of the table. We even saw it in the game against West Ham in the FA Cup, the previous round, where throughout the first 45 minutes, they were second best. So have they entered a phase of complacency? They've accepted the fact that they've won 1 trophy and that's good enough so far this season? Or are they hungry? We'll have to wait and see when it comes to this fixture against Fulham, because it's up in the air and we really don't know what's going to happen. However, maybe Manchester United are fortunate they're playing Fulham at this time, because this is not the Fulham of the old. It's not the Fulham side which have been collecting points for fun throughout the beginning of the season. We know in the last 3 games, Fulham have not been able to to win. They've looked like a shell of themselves, especially in the game against Arsenal, being outclassed and outmatched. And we know Fulham at points have been neutralised when it comes to their key players like Mitrovic. Be aggressive, be physical is the name of the game to prevent him from bullying centre-backs. And we know Manchester United have the personnel to deal with this, especially with players like Martinez and Varane, who love that physical contest, one-on-one duels, to literally insert their dominance when it comes to the game of football. So maybe Mitrovic may be neutralised yet again, as we have seen in the last few weeks ago, struggling to score goals. I wholeheartedly think that this game is going to be dull, it's going to be stale, there's going to be a lack of chances. Manchester United is going to have to rely on their grit and grind to get through this game, especially since we know in the midfield it lacks creativity except for Bruno Fernandes. And going into the final third, Rashford is the only consistent outlet when it comes to goals and assists. Weghorst just being a press merchant, not really getting on the back of things. And we know Sancho has been inconsistent, not really showcasing his brilliance on the ball. And we know Antony is a one-trick pony. So Manchester United don't really have that much inspiring talent when it comes to hurting teams when dominating the game. So going into this game, Manchester United's defence have to be in tip-top form and have to shut out Fulham. At the end of the day, I'm going to go for the upset. I truly think Fulham have the capabilities of upsetting Manchester United at Old Trafford. They caught them at the right time, potentially being a little bit jaded, and the amount of fixtures is catching up to them, especially having key injuries to players like Garnacho, who we know has been match winners in the past. You can literally ask Fulham at Craven Cottage what he did to them in the dying embers of the game, winning Manchester United that game. So the fact they don't have this weapon off the bench, maybe this will work in Fulham's favour. I think Fulham will grind out a result with Paulinho literally being a great asset back into the side. I'm going to go for a 1-0 away victory for Fulham within this fixture. So the next game I'm going to be predicting is Manchester City versus Burnley. And going into this game, I feel like this has the potential to be the game of the weekend when it comes to the Premier League and the FA Cup. If you truly think about it, these two teams are potentially part of the best three sides within the country when it comes to statistically playing the best brand of football. We know they love to dominate games, be on the front foot, attacking, suffocating oppositions when it comes to the press. And we know both sides have had great success this season when literally displaying this format, especially Vincent Kompany and Burnley within the Championship. If you have seen this season, they have been absolutely marvellous, spectacular to say the least. We know they've scored the most goals in the Championship and conceded the least. And this just shows that Vincent Kompany has made Burnley a well-oiled machine. They have not that many weaknesses within their game, and they can actually take the game to any opposition they face. However, going into this fixture, they are facing the Premier League champions. They are facing the big boys, Manchester City, who are fresh off destroying RB Leipzig 7-0. Burnley, I absolutely feel sorry for them that they have to face Manchester City in this vein of form, because we know so many teams struggle to deal with this. Although Burnley have been so dominant, so phenomenal this season, which has managers like Neil Warnock, who we know has coached in the Championship notoriously, to say that Burnley are the best Championship side he's ever seen in his life when it comes to dominating games from minute 1 to 90. At the end of the day, there are levels to this. And yes, there may be an argument to be stated that Burnley may face Manchester City at a lucky time since they're resting players. But like I've said in the past, we know Manchester City's squad depth is ridiculous. We can look at the game against RB Leipzig. They won 7-0, but think about the players who didn't even start. We're talking about players like Mahrez. We're talking about players like Foden. We're talking about players like Cole Palmer, who we know is a young up-and-coming talent when it comes to Manchester City. We're talking about players like Calvin Phillips, Laporte. These guys would make any other top 6 side within the Premier League. So this just shows how much strength in depth Manchester City have. Even Alvarez, a World Cup winner who has been scoring goals for Manchester City as of recent. So going into this game, even if Manchester City do rotate, I don't think they're going to be weak enough for Burnley to take advantage of this. And going into this fixture especially, it's going to be interesting to see what Vincent Kompany does. Is he going to stick to his tactics, which has made Burnley so successful this season? Or is he going to hesitate and he's going to twist and be more pragmatic and let Manchester City have the ballpark of possession? Because if you literally mirror Manchester City when it comes to high press and football, trying to win the ball in high areas, we know Manchester City are just going to pick you apart because they have the better personnel and obviously they are better coached when it comes to this style of football. Burnley will not be able to keep up with Manchester City in this department. However, if Burnley sit back and literally abandon their system when it comes to playing football, maybe they're just going to be waiting for Manchester City to literally dead off the game, because we know Manchester City are hard to shut down for the case of 90 minutes. So what will Vincent Kompany do? He will know better than anyone because obviously he's been managed by Pep Guardiola in the past and he'll be familiarised with what Pep Guardiola likes to do when it comes to attacking football. But at the end of the day, Manchester City just have too much talent for Burnley players to keep up with and prevent them from scoring. Going into this game, I truly think Burnley just have to pick their poison because they are going to lose. I'm going to be predicting a Manchester City victory within this fixture. I'm going to go for a 3-1 victory for the home side at the Etihad. So the next game I'm going to be predicting is Brighton versus Grimsby Town, and this is truly a David v Goliath story. We got a League 2 mid-table side, which is pretty much a town, in the quarter-finals of the FA Cup, facing off Goliath in Brighton, who we know right now are competing for a top 4 place in the big time as we speak. So we know Grimsby Town have their hands full when it comes to this fixture because we know Brighton, especially under De Zerbi, have taken their game to a next level and have been dominating teams. However, maybe going into this fixture, Grimsby Town may not be as fearful, maybe not be as scared, maybe not sit back and let Brighton dominate the game and literally accept the fate of losing, because we have known in the FA Cup anything can happen, miracles can happen. We've seen it in the past and we have even seen it with Grimsby Town. Look at the last round. They beat a established ever-staying Premier League side in Southampton 2-1 away from home at the St. Mary's. This is a massive accomplishment. This is a massive foot in their club's history. And even if they do lose against Brighton, the fans, the players will cherish that moment, being able to pull off a miracle against a Premier League side advancing to the quarterfinals. However, like I said with the Manchester City game, potentially there is just levels to the game of football. Brighton have been so good. They have been beating top oppositions within the Premier League like Manchester United, beating teams like Chelsea by 5, beating Liverpool 3. They have been absolutely brilliant, especially with De Zerbi taking their attacking football to another level. I don't know how Grimsby Town will be able to deal with this. I love the fact that De Zerbi has put his own stamp on this side when it comes to Brighton style of football. He's changed it from a 3 to a 4 at the back compared to Graham Potter, and he's really giving the license and freedom of players like Mitoma and Marsh to get on the ball in wide areas and dribble at fullbacks, and he's had great success in that, with Mitoma potentially being one of the best wingers in the Premier League. And you can even say the duo of them may be the second or third best pairing when it comes to wingers within the Premier League, of how great they have been this season. I love the fact that Caicedo for Brighton has signed a new contract. He is settled down. We know McAllister has finally brushed off the rust when it comes to the World Cup, scoring in his last fixture as well against Leeds. And we know Gross is one of the most underrated players within the Premier League in that midfield position. So the spine of Brighton do look great, and we know against any team on their day they can blow them away like we have seen in the past. I'm not going to lie, Grimsby Town will need a miracle. They will need a lot of luck. They will need to be disciplined. They will need to be organised at the back, and they'll truly need to unsettle Brighton and frustrate them when it comes to defensive style football and waiting for the moments to counter-attack. But at the end of the day, I feel like this is a massive game for Brighton, and I can't see them being complacent within this game. Brighton, we know, have not won a trophy for God's sake amount of years, and this is a golden opportunity, a golden ticket to advance yourself to Wembley to the semi-finals of this competition. It must be said, Grimsby Town will enter this game in high hopes because they have won their games back to back, but like I said, there are levels to this. I think Brighton will dominate this game. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for the home side Brighton within this game. So the next game we're going to be predicting is Sheffield United versus Blackburn. And going into this game, I feel like it's actually going to be quite close because we know both sides have been evenly matched within the Championship, winning one apiece against each other already this season. So these two sides will not be strangers with each other. They will know exactly how each other play in terms of their playing style, and they'll be preparing for this fixture because it's a golden opportunity for both of sides as well to advance themselves to the semi-finals of the FA Cup. And going into this fixture, we know both sides have been doing well in the Championship. We know Sheffield United are second within the Championship as we speak, and we know Blackburn were able to win 4 out of their last 5 games to advance themselves to 6th place, so potentially we could be seeing themselves back in the big time. But we know full focus right now is on the FA Cup. And admittedly so, not knowing much about either side, I truly feel that Sheffield United will probably be the favourites. This is because they are at home. They're going to have their fans cheering them on, going to be that 12th man, potentially being a massive decisive factor in an evenly matched contest. And we know the last time Sheffield United faced Blackburn at home, they wiped them 3-0 at the beginning of the season. I know Sheffield United have been in iffy form, obviously winning 2 of the last 5 games, and they've hit a start stumbling and roadblock. But at the end of the day, I feel like they're the more proven, reliable commodity as we speak, since they're higher up in the table. And I just feel like the job Heckingbottom has done being their manager, obviously making them the third best attack in the championship and the second best defence, just shows they have a little bit about them. They're a well-rounded team, well-oiled machine, and they know how to score and defend as a unit. I feel like Blackburn this season have been a bit iffy, 41 goals conceded, which just shows you they've been a bit average. So going into this game, I feel like it's going to be a tight contest, but I just feel like the top man will be a massive factor. With Sheffield United overall being a better side this season, I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory for the Blades within this fixture.